Good evening and welcome to another edition of Added Time, the football podcast you never knew you needed. As always, our friends at AO Home Improvements are our sponsors. Get online and give them a check out for all your home improvements and renovations. You can check us out on TikTok if you search Added Time Pod and click that follow button. Much appreciated. And so we're well and truly in the business end of the football season now. Promotions and relegations already confirmed, but a lot of loose ends to tie up as well. Joining me in the sofa tonight is a guy who, if you find yourself in a green nightlife scene, you'll have no doubt bumped into him. Blue really is the colour for this Rangers and Man City fan. Welcome to Scottish DJ Billy McClellan.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
And joining Billy tonight is a guy who's part of a Let's Have It team here in Glasgow. I'm not saying he's a glory hunter, but you may see a few costume changes throughout the show. So making his Added Time debut as well is Ryan McCready.
How you doing?
So welcome to the show, guys. The only place we can start really is the English Championship on a day of high drama at both the top and the bottom of the table. We start at Portman Road, and Billy, in terms of Kieran McKenna's side, we were talking off air, obviously. We only needed a draw against already relegated Huddersfield. Did you think there was any doubt that the Tractor Boys were going to plough their way to the Premiership?
No, I thought that it was a done deal. See, as soon as I seen Leeds kind of blowing it, getting beat 4-0, and I just looked at it and I just went, Ipswich will just easily come through this now. But then even like that, Leeds still blew it regardless. But it's some feat by them, back-to-back promotions.
Yeah, and obviously, it becomes another level, obviously, back-to-back promotions, Ryan. But, what do you think they need to do for next year just to take that step up? Is it a case of bringing in a bit of flair from Europe?
It's recruitment. That's the main thing. You look at when Nottingham Forest come up and you look at the likes of like the teams that come up this year, done it, apart from Luton, done a lot of recruitment and they're looking alright compared to Sheffield United and stuff. So I think recruitment is a big deal. I think that's what they need to look at, and they need to look at having a strong midfield, especially playing in the Premier League where the game is so fast and so dictated by the midfield. I think that's the main look.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, Billy, it's obviously it becomes, when you look at teams like Luton, as I mentioned, it's not as easy for these teams to stay up. Even Burnley, who looked a really good side under Vincent Kompany, they've struggled and they're almost kind of gone now with that 5-point deficit. But as I say, do you see Ipswich kind of going up? And they only stayed one season before in the Premier League. Do you think they'll kind of make their mark?
Same again. I think it really relies on what kind of recruitment they do. Teams either usually go all in or kind of stick with what they've got and just add a few flair players around. Like Luton did it, Nottingham Forest did it majorly, but I mean, I think it sort of backfired for Nottingham Forest. But if they get out of this, then you could sit and say it's they did the right thing. But obviously you don't know. They're looking good right now because of the Burnley situation, but I think they'll stay up, and I think it'll be Luton that'll go down. But I think Luton have been amazing to watch.
Yeah.
And then Burnley, as you say, they're really good to watch as well. But they just can't get over the line in some of these games, and that's the bit that kills them. Like you can play all the great football you want, but if you don't get the result, it doesn't matter in the end.
Yeah, and obviously when you look at that kind of playoff, the playoffs are obviously confirmed. Southampton, West Brom, Norwich, and Leeds. Leeds missed out incredibly with 90 points. When you think back to some of the games that they slipped up in, obviously that QPR game when they lost 4-0 and. It's just crazy to think just one or two more results and they would have been there automatically. Do you think it's I don't mean it's a foregone conclusion, because you see these teams year upon year, they have great seasons. Do you think it's a case of, a season could be over in 90 minutes against one of these teams? So do you think it's a case of who do you think is going to make it basically out of the playoffs?
See, if I would have looked at it 4 weeks ago and I'd seen the four teams or the teams now, I would have said Leeds.
Yeah.
But looking at it now, I'm like, do you know what? I could fancy Norwich to sneak it. Just if you look at it, nothing's really been said about them. They've just kind of snuck in at the back. And then you've obviously heard Southampton have been there, Leeds have been there all season, and Norwich have been like 7th, 8th, and then they've just snuck into the playoffs when everybody else was dropping points. So it's quite interesting. I've always got a thing for the team that finished sixth. I think that they've got a wee bit of momentum behind them because they've been trying. Usually the teams at the top have got loads of points in their head, whereas they're still fighting right up till the end to get into the six. So I think that they've got a bit of momentum behind them because of that.
True, and Ryan, obviously, you know, you're wearing the colours of Southampton. You know,
I wouldn't claim to be a Southampton fan. It's just a tap I had in the house. But no, I would. See, for me, it's Southampton and Leeds have got that Premier League sort of heritage and stuff. I'd like to see at least one of the two getting up there. But Norwich as the killer. It's Norwich you need to watch it for, I think.
Silent. Like that just came from nowhere.
That's the thing. In seasons gone by, you usually hear of Norwich being the yo-yo team and they look at odds only winning the championship and then they drop down again. But this year they've just kind of been playing their football and just been left to it. So I could see them just coming out and winning the playoffs. And do you know what? I wouldn't be fussed if either of the three of them come up, to be honest.
yeah, and I think that's the thing. Is it a case of
Poor West Brom.
I was just going to say, is it a case of then, you know, as you say, the yo-yo teams that are mainly West Brom and Norwich, is there a bit more stability in teams like Southampton and Leeds maybe coming back up because, as you say, they've got that aura about them where they almost kind of belong in the Premier League over the years?
I think that Leeds look good if they can go over what's happening to them right now and they get up there because they've got a top class manager. I think, and the other ones have got good managers, but I think that he's of that level and he shouldn't really be managing a team in the second division because he's got a lot of experience and he's very well revered and stuff. So I think that they've got the best place if they can get up and then get their recruitment right because they got their recruitment really wrong in the relegation season. Like sold really key players and never replaced them and ended up with injuries at the end of the season, had to play players that had been playing and that's where their downfall was. So they need to, if they can get through the playoffs and get back up, I think that they'll get back to like where they were, kind of middle, challenging, trying to get into the top half.
Yeah, and I think when you look at down the bottom of the table, obviously Rotherham and Huddersfield were already gone by kick-off on Saturday. Birmingham really did end up feeling the blues because they were out of it, then were back in it, out of it, and then obviously ended up back in it. When you look at the owners, Ryan, obviously Tom Brady, mainly kind of thing, they're going to have the biggest budget in League One. Do you think it's just a case of trying to throw money at it and bounce back up?
I mean, they could go down that Wrexham route where it's chucking money, buying players for the league above rather than the league below. But I think what Wrexham's done is very unnatural. I don't think it could work in the League 1, the League 2 stages. I think Wrexham struggled. So I think Birmingham needs to look at a new strategy where they can't just chuck money at it. They need to have a good structure in place, bring in coaches, bring in a great staff to help the manager out to build a greater team that can take them back up the leagues.
Yeah,
that's what they need.
This is Wrexham's like level now. See the team they've got and the management they've got. This is the level that they probably should be playing at with that in their back. But I think that now we're going to see how they can like deal with that because now they're not the favourites every week kind of thing.
And I think that's the thing when you look at it. You know, as I say, teams like Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday obviously survived in the last day. You know, when you look at it, you've got a Sheffield derby next year in the Championship. Birmingham and Wrexham will probably be the money derby next year when you look at the owners that they've got.
Hollywood derby.
6 managers this season Birmingham City have had.
Unbelievable.
I didn't realise that until I actually read it.
That's news to me. I thought it was 5, but
I think Gary Rowett was the 6. So do you think in terms of
Watford, didn't it?
do you think then
they had a lot as well?
They used to get through a lot of
I
managers.
know they did when they were in the Premier League. It was like the yo-yo. Did they not have 3 in like 5 weeks at one point?
It was something like that.
Crazy.
But Gary Rowett is probably suited at that level. He's probably a step above that level, if I'm being honest. In terms of, do you think he'll be in charge for next season, or do you think they'll try and kind of look?
They've got to give him the
chance to bring him back up
because he was kind of fighting a
losing battle
before he even started. So it wouldn't really be fair to replace him unless they were going to just fling money and get a manager that's crazy above that level and kind of do what you were saying with the money. Whereas I think they need to be more cautious and build around people, like instead of just throwing money. Because like you can buy all the best players in the world, doesn't make it a team. And Paris Saint-Germain kind of
No.
shows
Yeah.
that like infinite money, but you've got to be able to play together and be able to cohesion and stuff. So, be interested to see what they do.
I think they should stick them. I think they should give him at least a season.
He's got to get.
When
You've got to let him get into this season.
Aye.
You can't bag him, bring him in after that, and then bag him within a year. That's crazy.
When you have a season with 6 managers, you can't just keep doing that the season after. You need to pick a manager, stick even for the next season. If they take him out and hire somebody else, give them the season, you can't just keep swapping it because you've just got to fall
You're
down
just
the
getting
leagues.
into somebody else's mess.
Aye.
And then by the time you've cleared that up, you might not be getting the results, and then because you've not got the results, you're then getting sacked, and it's just a
Vicious
endless
cycle.
of just like basically bringing in a new manager, changing players, bringing in a new manager, changing players. It's just it's not healthy.
And obviously we should say congratulations to Leicester and Enzo Maresca. You know, they got the job done. They didn't look as if they were going to get over the line, but you know, they got there. And obviously Leicester and Ipswich will be Premier League teams. I'm really looking forward to Sunday. Sunday's going to be a hangover day for me after the Saturday.
Back to back.
2 matches back to back, and then I think you've got, is it Man U Arsenal 4:30? I think.
I think so. Aye.
That's a day on a couch for me.
The top was mental. That I see that like 3 or 4 week period where it was like passing a hot potato.
Oh.
People were just like, "Can they go top? No, can they go top?" And it was just, I was like, "What is happening here?"
Oh, it's
I've never
crazy.
seen anything
It's
like
crazy
it.
to think that all of a sudden it went from a 3-horse race to a 2-horse race. Effectively, if City take care of the games, it's done and dusted. But obviously move on to the Premier League and Arsenal, where the early kick-off on Saturday, you know, 3 points to pile the pressure onto City. He's already got his Everton top on.
I could
Thankfully,
have went and put my City top that's in my bag.
yeah, so you'll be delighted that Everton's safe.
Aye,
You
absolutely at the moon.
you can breathe. Yeah, so Arsenal, and what was probably, a lot of people would have looked at the Arsenal-Bournemouth game and thought Bournemouth were already in holiday modes, you know, and
They're safe. Know what I
in
mean?
that position. Can he go up? Can he go down? Can he get Europe? But do you know what? They probably made it tougher than Arsenal probably thought, and they were only ahead through a debatable penalty. And in terms of when you see penalties given like that, do you think VAR needs to get involved?
Yes, I don't have my head's fried with VAR. I just don't understand like how they can. It's got to be consistent. It's like they've been saying it since it's been brought in. The consistency in all decisions is way off. Like they use the letter of the law.
Yeah.
It's probably not the best way to do it. Like I can understand like you set it up, you go, oh, if it hits his hand, but it comes off another part of the body. But they're not even following that. They're literally just, it changes every week. And they go, oh, it was because of this and because of that. And you're just like, that's not the way it should be. If you're saying letter of the law, it should be the letter of the law. And
It should,
be-
yeah,
and
it should apply to
deflections onto
everybody,
your
yeah.
hand and stuff like that. Like we were talking earlier about the Champions League game.
Yeah.
It's just, like, they need to look at that and go, what you meant to do in that situation? That is not, like, you're penalising a guy for that, and he doesn't know anything about it. It's not it's not ball, it's ball to hand, not hand to ball.
It's a consistency issue because you look at so many instances throughout the season. It's the same 2 situations. It's different decisions that get made on them, and it's getting to the point now where you would accept human error. You would accept the referee's not seen that, the linesman hadn't caught the offside, but it's now you've got this tool that you can see every individual incident for a lot of different angles, and if you're not making the same decision for every incident, then why is it here? Because it's causing more controversy. Every week we're talking about it. Every week we're going, well, VAR got this. It's a joke.
I think that's what the thing is. It's obviously was brought in to kind of stop arguments, and what it's done is probably create more arguments. I think what they need to do is kind of strip it back and make it only viable to the
Very,
referee
very
for,
bad decision.
as I say, offsides they can call. Referee doesn't need to go to the monitor because the lines are drawn. Obviously, red cards and penalties. Probably that's it. They don't need to get involved with anything else. I feel like they're trying to re-referee the game. And the crazy thing is, because Nottingham Forest have obviously got into trouble this season because they've accused VAR of being a Luton fan, which led to Mark Clattenburg obviously resigning from his position at the City ground. And the crazy thing is, when you look at it up in Scotland, now down in England, obviously you fill in your your form that says who you support, and then they work out who you can referee. Obviously, up here, it genuinely doesn't matter because if you're a Celtic or Rangers fan, you're always going to think the referee supports the other team. You're always going to be accusing VAR of foul play.
Doesn't help referees are in Hearts supporters clubs and all that. Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying.
But that's the thing. It's like when you look at it, you know, it's as I say, there was a lot was made this week or last week that, you know, there's not going to be any Scottish officials at Euro 2024 because the large percentage of them are incompetent.
Yes.
I believe. Not saying every referee.
No. I think they make
can't do his job,
silly, like. Not
I
even
think
like
they're
real
relying
mistakes,
too much
silly
on
mistakes.
the technology.
Like, see, it happens more in Scotland, I think, but like, you've seen people in England when it goes to VAR actually not taking the decision.
Yeah.
Most of the time he does, but I've seen people reject it and just go with the on-field decision. Whereas in Scotland, as soon as they go to the monitor, you know you're getting a penalty, you know you're getting this, you know it's going to be a red card. There's no, I've not seen him overturn anything, I don't think. I don't know. If
I think I've only seen it maybe once or twice.
It's just it's almost like you can see them all cheering. You know right away. Oh, I'm going to get a penalty because he's going to look at the monitor. It's just
I think it definitely needs to be looked at. But you know, when you look at Arsenal, then obviously they could win their next two games and not be champions. In a season where they kind of blew it last year, they were more fancied this year. Do you think Arsenal stick with Arteta next year?
Of course, I've got to stick with him. I obviously, being a City fan, I'm not really. I like Arteta because he was at City, but I think I can't deal with those antics. See this touchline stuff that just makes me cringe.
It's a wee bit like Simeone.
It's almost as if he's like Diet Simeone.
Yeah,
and he's just like he's going crazy, and he's doing this over things that are like, okay, right, you won the match in the last minute. I can understand that kind of stuff. That's
absolutely,
a big deal. But then he was doing it for like things that the match wasn't even over. And he was like running up, and he's just always in the referee's face, and it just annoys me. So I kind of have that against him.
Pep and Klopp are the same.
I know, but
Mourinho.
I think Pep and Klopp, they do it, but they also can.
They're a wee bit more animated in what they do. They kind of like
they know when they're not going to win an argument, so they just kind of step back. Whereas Arteta's just constantly in everybody's face, and it just annoys me. But fair play to him, he's doing all right for himself.
I'll tell you what I'm laughing at. Obviously, I'm a Newcastle fan. We'll get on to talking about them next. But the one image that's been shown time and time again is imagine Arsenal lose the league by 2 points, and it's a Newcastle game where they lost, and they're claiming the ball was out of play.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It was Anthony Gordon that totally kept the ball in.
I mean, how bad? I mean, I can't remember the still. I remember the still, but I can't actually picture how much it is. Was it horrendous?
It wasn't horrendous. It was one of those
but
ones.
It's probably
it was inconclusive, I think, because from one angle it hadn't crossed the line, and from another angle it had crossed the line.
I
So
don't
it was
think
one
it
of those
did.
ones.
I don't think it did cross the line.
I'm going to say it didn't, just for.
Aye, but see when you see the still at for the angle, it's like down nearer it. And then you see the still when it's up and tat.
You know what we should all just say?
But this is what I'm saying.
But if
this
that
is
goes
where,
against my team potentially winning the league, I am shouting for the rooftops about it. Do you know what I mean?
But again, you're relying on technology there. See if that happened without VAR, you'd go, there that referee cost us the game. And that's it. So it's not like a total lambasting of the situation. Do you know what I mean?
I think that like that there, if they will. I think they'll win their 2 games. I think City will win their 3 games, and City will win the league, because I would have been more cautious if they were still in the Champions League, because you could see that they're really knackered after Champions, even though they still got the job done last year and stuff like that. But you could just tell.
Yeah, it's just playing that extra game midweek, and
they'll get to the end of the season, and then they just got to play the FA Cup, and maybe. Maybe they're playing right now.
But was the Premier League no a 3-horse race at one point, and then something happened?
That's true. That was true. And that's what happened.
Aye.
So obviously Newcastle have been on instrumental form of late. The only blip coming at Selhurst Park. In terms of when you look at the job Eddie Howe's done with the injuries he's had, and Tonali being suspended and things like that. You know, all the Champions League games, FA Cup games. How good a job do you think he's done in terms of?
I feel bad for him, because I think he's done a great job, and he kind of was never. I don't know if like they maybe had in their mind, oh, get Eddie to come in. He's a Premier League manager, steady ship, and then we'll get like a proper like big name manager because we've got the money now to kind of fund this. But he came in and done so good in the first season, they had to give him the kind of the run of it, and then because of how well he done the first season, it was always going to make this season look worse if he didn't kind of emulate and do it again. And obviously it's harder because everybody kind of stepped up their game this year. The fact that it was only a 2-horse race and it turned into a 3-horse race, and then you look at all the teams that are still able to get 4th, 5th and 6th, like that was all kind of set up by this point last year. Whereas now Newcastle were obviously out of that, but it looks really bad as if he's done a not good job, but he's done a great job. It's very, very deceiving. And then you look at the injuries as well, and you look at like the amount of like he's bringing through some really good players as well. Like he's using his own.
I think Lewis Hall's really going to come onto a game, especially next season.
That's
a done deal.
It's a signed guy.
I think there was always a plan in place
for him to sign permanently.
I think there was something like he had to play a certain amount of minutes or something.
I seen him play in a Chelsea youth team, and I was just like, he's quite handy in that. And I just thought that he would go into a Chelsea team. Like he kind of reminded me of like when Billy Gilmore started getting into a Chelsea team, and he controls the game. And then I didn't even know he'd went on loan to Newcastle, and I was like, I think that's that guy that I've seen. And obviously I've watched him all season. He's been really, really good. And then that other young boy, is it Miley?
Yeah, Lewis Miley. He was kind of thrown into the team.
The injury, a work in progress. But then you can sit and say, all right, he's maybe threw in at a time when he maybe should have been kind of bedded in, but he's done well for what he's done. It excites people. That's probably why, like, he's done well, because even though he's made mistakes and he's maybe not been as good as some performances are better than others, they've obviously realised that he's been thrown into a deep end.
Yeah. And I think when you look at Alexander Isak, he's been on fire this year. I'm really, really glad he's not going to be playing in the Euros, because all I need is for him to get injured.
Would you not be worried that somebody might try and test the resolve?
I think the resolve will definitely be tested. Whether Newcastle have to sell due to FFP, I don't know.
I don't know if it's have to sell, but I suppose
they don't want to sell.
They don't want to sell, but then at the same point, see when these teams start coming in for people like that, you don't want an unhappy player.
Supposedly, he's close to signing a new deal, and there's no release clause in the contract.
Is there a release clause in his deal now?
I think so. So it's trying to get that over the line, trying to kind of
secure him,
because he doesn't want to go.
No,
I don't think
he seems happy there.
See if you can give him a pay rise and then take that out of the like incorporate that out and then put that in. You could imagine that because he looks happy. That's the difference.
And I think that's the thing when you look at even Callum Wilson, who isn't playing every week. He's came back from injury. He's been on form as well, banged in a few goals. He's now the second top goal scorer in the Premier League for Newcastle United. He's got a little bit to go before he gets to Alan Shearer, obviously. But
I mean, I don't think he'll get there. But I mean, I can dream.
Listen, I think when you look at Callum Wilson, obviously Gareth Southgate was there watching him at Tough Moor on Saturday. Do you think with the extra 3 places to play for, obviously in the Euros, do you think he could probably be a wild card? And
surely you would think.
You would think that
you take a chance on him,
just for like the fact is he's good at coming off the bench and grabbing a goal, but I don't know. Like
I can't see him in an England team. I'll be honest.
When I'm looking at England's,
I
know they've got extra players. I'm looking at English.
Has he not got caps?
He's got caps.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't think he's not the type of player that England want. England want like somebody forward
like an Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins
that can still do like wing play and do all that, whereas Callum Wilson's just box.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Listen, that wins you games.
But then the difference is Ivan Toney's also got that. And he's got the link up play. I don't know. I was actually looking at the potential England squad, and I was like, kind of looking. I don't know. They're brilliant from like
that
here
midfield is
upward.
frightening.
It's frightening. It's frightening. See, the thing is, everybody can sit and say like Foden is just absolutely expected. Bellingham expected. Everybody.
Declan Rice
has been really good, and then you look at like people that have not had a good, but then he'll probably come good in a tournament.
Yeah.
Like Jack Grealish hasn't been that great this year, but at the start of the year he was, and he probably will turn it on at a tournament.
I'm a big fan of Jack Grealish. I know he doesn't
Jack,
get
as
I think he's very
credit as he does.
He's far too criticised. I think, do you know what? See, because he came with the big price tag and stuff like that when he came in Man City, he was kind of criticised far too harshly. But he started coming into his own, especially last season when they won the treble. He was
Last season
important.
he was awesome, and then I think this year he kind of got an injury at the start.
Yeah.
And kind of scuppered him. He couldn't get in the team for a while, so he struggled. But every time City sign a player, I don't even think about them in the first season because it's a thing now. You look at all the players they brought in, like Mahrez didn't have a good first season. Second season he was like, he could have been player of the year.
Aye.
And then you've got like stuff like Jack done it as well, and then I'm like, who's
Rodri.
next? I was like, Rodri. He done it all right first season, but second season they just solidified themselves the best in his position.
I think Grealish said something in an interview a couple of years ago where he was talking about his stats for Man City and saying how his stats weren't as good as they could be, and he says, but when you look at it, he says I could cross 20 balls in a game into the box. He says, and maybe one or two will get on the end of it, but it doesn't mean that I'm not trying
Aye.
to get those assists. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying my best. It just means that nobody's getting on the end of it kind of thing, which is true.
You've got to look at peripherals or everything. Like, see, like when he's saying, "Oh, he's not his stats on," it's because he's getting brought down all the time.
Aye,
So
but he's
not
very,
getting the
very good
chance
at
to
it as well.
assist.
He's very, very good at that.
Oh,
Aye.
no, he's
But
amazing at that.
You can't trust stats in this day and age. Like people look at this XG and XA and all that carry on, and you're like, just watch the game, watch the players how they played. Did they have a good game? Did they have a bad game? Stop saying, but you only get it was XG at 1.2. I bet you get 3 goals.
What was I watching the game the other night in the XG? It was like 0.00 and they were winning 1-0. I was just like, what is that stat? Like, seriously, like how can they even begin to quantify that as a stat? They're winning 1-0 and their stat is 0 on XG. I was just like,
How can you have unexpected goals? Like, you should be scoring this amount of goals. Football's a notoriously hard to predict game. That's how the betting market's so big, because it's hard to. So how can you expect a team to win so many to score so many goals? It's an absolute joke.
if they knew that, then these people would be really rich. Aye, putting all the bets on. Oh, they're going to score 2 XG off, get 2 goals on.
And I think when you look at it, obviously, you know, the pressure probably went on Man City in the evening kickoff. And Erling Haaland turns on pro mode and bangs in 4. You know, he's
not human, man.
It's crazy. I think he's
It's
actually had a
slightly more-
quiet season.
Aye, it has.
really
He's
quite
slightly
He's had
more-
25 goals or something, but he's
He's been injured for a good
really
portion
quite.
That's what I mean.
of it as well.
This is Haaland settling in. It's weird because he's had this big explosive first season. Now it's calming down. Whereas most people, as we said, have struggled their first season and then start. I think he's calmed down a lot.
I
this
think
season.
I was kind of worried because obviously there was this angling that we'd go to Real Madrid after a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
But I think now looking at the
he's-
team that they're moulding,
happy.
Rune, I don't think it would
Haaland
go.
wouldn't fit.
I don't think it's not he would be fit. He would be number 9. He'd be basically the replacement for Benzema. But see the way that they're now playing, I can't see them like they're not going to get rid of Vinicius. They're not going to get rid of that boy Endrick that they've just signed. He's going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And then they've got Mbappe, and then they've got all these guys that are going to be desperate like that. Are they really going to go out and spend 150 million on Haaland for him to sit on the bench
Aye.
for certain games and that? I don't see it. So I think that there's not many teams that could pry him away, and Real Madrid would have been one of them. But I think, hopefully, he's here for breaking more records.
And obviously, you know, 2 of his goals in Saturday came from the spot. The first one probably more debatable than the second one. Do you think there was any doubt? Or it's quite hard to judge because Etnuri kind of doesn't know he's there, and but he does kind of swing the leg and catch him.
I think those ones are almost debatable. Like, you've looked at it and they've said he's probably just caught him.
Yeah.
But then you look at the ones the week before with like Spurs that he misses and he booted him right through, and I'm just like, that just shows you, like, obviously they got the right decision in the end, but it just shows you that on-field decisions can be so wrong based on where he's standing. But obviously he had a very good look at the 1v8 Nuri, and as you said, it was probably a bit light, but if you make contact, then you've given him a decision to make, and he's gone with the decision.
And I think when you look at it, obviously Haaland, you know, as I say, 25, 26 goals this season. You know, I think he's only failed to score in 12 games this season that he wasn't injured, which is quite frightening in itself. Just in terms of then the Spurs game coming up at the Tottenham Stadium, you know. I think it's something like they've not won in 5. 4 Spurs managers have got the better of Pep. Will the way Spurs are playing, do you think there's any doubt, or do you think Spurs are playing that bad now that it might just be one of those hoodoos
I don't
that
know.
throws the title race
See,
back
I think
in?
that is the stickler. But see, when I've been watching Spurs and they're just all over the place. Like I get it. Like they've done well. And see, it's funny when you go back. See, if you go back to the first couple of weeks of the season, and you went back and spoke to somebody, they thought they were winning the league.
Aye.
They were doing so well. But then that's what I'm saying. When everybody kind of calmed down and got their teams in order and defending properly, I think the first couple of games people just thought gung ho, and Spurs that plays right into their hands because that's what they want to do. But I think that they've got to make a couple of signings. Like, see if they made a couple of they really need to replace Harry Kane.
I don't think they were backed, because I think Daniel Levy probably looked at Big Ange coming up for Scotland and thinking might not last long, so I'm not going to give him a blank checkbook basically. Whereas I think when he looks at the start they had, even where they are in the league now, do you know what I mean? They probably obviously just missed out in Champions League because of stupid games, but when you look at what they could have done, obviously we lost Maddison through injury and that killed them as well. But
It was losing Maddison that kind of
Uh-huh.
started the dominoes falling. Do you know what I mean? And they've even lost another couple of injuries.
They've had a really, I mean, I know they had a bad injuries, but they've had a really tough time. There was a lot of kind of makeshift defences and makeshift midfields for them throughout the season, and they still got through quite a lot of those games. Surprisingly, the games that they lost heavy or absolutely destroyed in were games that they had quite a strong team. So I don't know if he's got the right consistency with his team and the right, like, kind of who he likes to play, because he was changing a lot.
yeah,
See, when he had the kind of same 8, 9 players in the team, 8 players probably, just changing 1 or 2, they were quite consistent.
yeah,
So-
and I think they all kind of bought into that mentality kind of thing.
Like,
And
the-
it's
the-
obviously a different kettle of fish when you go to a league like the Premier League in England, because you've got so many more better teams that you're going to play against and test your wits against. And obviously the running joke is that, you know, there's a picture of Ange Postecoglou and it's like, but these tactics worked against Ross County and Dundee
aye.
United. And it's funny, but it's true, because I think if he's backed heavily in the summer, I'm not saying they'll be
He needs
title
to-
challengers, but I think they'll be up there in the top 4.
The problem is he likes an under kind of
Uh-huh.
Asian market sign or something like that. So you'd be worried that if you gave him money, would he go for a established player, or would he think, oh, I can uncover some more gems here?
I could see maybe something like Rio going there, Rio Hatate. I think he
Rio.
could probably go there. I don't think Kyogo would go, because
he's too
I don't
lightweight.
think he's
He's
be
far
good
too
enough.
small for the.
He's not too. I don't know.
He's
about
a
too
tricky
small.
wee pacey
Yeah.
player, but I don't think he's got the stature to
Uh-huh.
fight half your Van Dijks and you're telling me centre half sort of down there.
See,
Do you know what I
the
mean?
difference is, if you look at like SPL teams, like their defenders are big guys as well, but they're not overly quick. Whereas you get guys down there that they're defending. I mean, look at like Kyle Walker.
Yeah.
Aye.
When he plays centre back, you're never beating him,
Uh-huh.
and you're like, he's strong, he's fit, and he can get back as quick as anything. You're like, he just runs Kyogo in a race, and you're like,
Yeah.
Whereas Kyogo would turn somebody in his SPL, and he's like that, and the guy's a big guy, and it's harder for him to get back. I think he would struggle against these like.
I'd like to see him and
fitness.
Dyson in a race. I think that could be interesting.
Would be interesting. I know. I think it's then to the point of saying Dyson that he's faster, but once again,
He's not got the end
very
product.
big.
He's for Dyson. I think
Dyson's another one I can see going down to the Prem. No to a Tottenham or something.
Southampton or something if they can.
Aye. Well,
Get
that
that
was
in
always the hang if with this player good enough to get into the Prem. It was always Southampton that signed him, but I don't know. I can see him going to a Nottingham Forest
He's
or
got- he-
something
he-
like that. Do you know what I mean?
I
He's got
think-
that wee.
Yeah.
I think he's.
It's the
Once he's
engine
done
in
his
him.
time and his thing, you'd be like, you want to have a go away age, is he? Is he? 20?
Dyson.
28.
Right, so you're looking at this and saying another year at Celtic maybe, and then you'd be looking at his last big contract. So maybe this would be a time to try
Yeah.
it. 'Cause that's it. I mean, if you're not, that's obviously the aim. You don't want to say it's a stepping stone and all
Aye.
that, but you're wanting to get in the biggest league in the world. I wouldn't say the best because it's debatable, but obviously where the big checkbooks are signed.
Aye.
So I
Absolutely.
mean, you could get a really big contract for a team that's maybe not a top 6 team, but they're a team that are looking for players that are like kind of buying in and fast and want to. Because he's definitely do all right down there. I think.
Aye.
for
Like,
any
would
of
do
these
a job
teams.
for Bournemouth and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
but
yeah.
Bournemouth,
Absolutely.
Brentford or something like that.
see Bournemouth and Brentford, they've like absolutely surpassed my.
Aye.
Like it's unreal.
Even a
what-
Brighton or
it's
something.
what-
Trying
aye,
something
it's
like
weird.
that.
Brighton
Brighton's
Play
like,
good football
they
and
play good football and like I don't know. They should knight that guy that's doing their recruitment.
Uh-huh.
Definitely be knighted.
Absolutely.
He's got some sort of award because it's unbelievable as it is.
Aye, the
It's-
amount of players
He's made
they've
a few
discovered
quid off of
already.
Chelsea anyway.
just phone up City and just go, right, who are Brighton trying to buy? Just buy him and put him in your youth team just now.
And I
It's
think when you look
unbelievable,
at
man.
the Monday night football from Selhurst Park, I'll not try and gloat too much, but obviously Man United were well taken apart. And when you look at how good Crystal Palace were, they're on a bit of a run. They're on a 5-game unbeaten run. They've beaten Liverpool, they've beaten Man United, beaten Newcastle United, and I think that they've probably came at the wrong time, where they're finishing the season off strongly, and it's obviously to do with a new manager. In terms of,
He's a good manager.
in terms of, do you see them stepping up if they've got
I
him in
think
charge and add a wee bit of class with Mateta and Elise and things like that?
I thought he was just a big brute, but he's got something about him. He's definitely like a target man, the guy you thingy. But see, I think if they get rid of Elise or Eze, they're done for.
Aye.
I think
Elise's
they
their
need, they
best
need
player.
to keep them two and Mateta and build a midfield behind them to somebody that can defend as well, because that's where they lack. Like they're brilliant going forward, and then when somebody attacks them, they're a bit weak.
Yeah.
I think they'll struggle to keep a hold of Elise.
I
I think they
don't
will, because he's been absolutely phenomenal this season. And then see if there's a great season next year. He's away.
I
If
don't
he's-
think they'll get it next year. I generally think somebody will come in and try and take.
No,
it in the
I
summer.
saw the possibility,
I'm
but
trying to
if
think what national. I can't even think
He's,
what
French,
national.
he's French. I
Is
think.
he French? Because I was going to say
I didn't
wasn't
know
sure
he
if
French. I
he's.
thought he was like English and he just had like a foreign name. But it came up there when it was on the Man United match. He had the France flag.
I
beside
wasn't
him.
sure if he's in the France squad, and
I don't
maybe
think he is.
you
but
might
then-
have
but then
a good.
You might end up
tournament in
seeing him in
Euros and-
like a Senegal squad. You don't know
Aye.
where his roots
Yeah.
are from. So I think he could be good enough to get in the France team. But then does he want to? Because then he's going to be up against Mbappe, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the name sells it.
but
So
he's got to get in the
Exactly.
French squad playing with Crystal Palace.
I think he would if he keeps up the way he's playing and there was room in the squad for him. But that's what I'm saying. It depends what's happening with the French young, because there's a couple of good French youngsters as well.
Yeah.
Like
French
that,
are
the guy
another-
that is even that Bradley Barcola plays for PSG.
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
I
He's a player.
actually thought he wasn't that great a player. He looked all right when he played for Lyon, and then when I've seen him play for PSG, I was like, I can see why
Right,
they spent the
stepped
money
up.
on him. He's definitely got something.
So
See,
in terms of Eric Ten Hag, obviously a man severely under pressure. He's got an FA Cup final to look forward to. Do you think Man United will have him in the dugout next season? I mean, I think he'll probably just hang on to his job this season, but
No.
do you think they'll
If
change?
they've- I mean, I know it's the Glazers and stuff
I
like
hope
that,
so.
but if they'd any sort of sense, they'd get rid of him. Like, he's struggling to deal with egos. I mean, look at how Sancho's doing when he left.
That's
Do you know-
amazing.
Look at
Crazy.
That would be one for me. I would wonder if he wins the championship. Does he get called up to England team?
we'll talk about that later, right? But aye, it's just I think he struggles to deal with egos. Like, I think if he came up to the Scottish game, or even went down to a championship team, he'd be one of the best managers about, because he would need to control the players. But I think at Man United, he's struggling to deal with egos, with players
Bruno
coming in.
Fernandes and Anthony
Aye.
and Garnacho and
And it's like, we play for Man United, so we must be the top boys. And then he's like, right, I need you to do this. And he's just, to me, it doesn't have a clear cut psychology. Like, it doesn't have a philosophy in the game. Every game's different. Bruno Fernandes, for me, he's not a captain. He isn't a captain. And keeping him as captain has only made it worse, I think.
Lead by example, and he's not being a very
No.
good example.
Exactly. Now, who do you put as a captain in that team? But I don't think there's a lot of captains in that team.
I think probably Scott McTominay.
McTominay.
To be honest,
Do you know
but
what?
he's not playing every week, obviously. That's the problem. So.
The problem is that sometimes I feel really bad for Scott McTominay. I just look at it and I just go, he's like, how much worse off would they be without his goals this year? I'd love to know that, like statistically,
How
because
many times has he come on as a sub?
come on, scored 2 goals and won the game, and then next week he's back in the bench, and you're just like,
Well, I think with Cole Palmer, the stat was that without Cole Palmer's goals for Chelsea, they'd be third bottom. in the league, which is crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Who I thought Cole Palmer made the wrong decision, 100% wrong decision to go to Chelsea. I thought he should have stuck it at City.
Everybody
I don't think he had much of a choice, but
it did have a choice.
aye, of course he had a choice, but
think
it was like kind of you're either got to stay at Man City and really
usually
again,
when
or,
stuff like that happens, I'm a little bit bitter about it, but I'm not bitter about him because he needed to go to get the games, and he was never ever going to play the games at City that he's played at Chelsea, and obviously he's came on so much there. So I think that it would have probably set him back like 2 seasons if he stayed with City. Look at Foden. Foden took a while to really get into it, but then they didn't want to get it. They wanted him to be in about the squad. They probably looked at Cole Palmer, and then when Chelsea offered him 40 million, like, we can't really knock that back for a guy that's not playing.
Especially for a youngster, as you say, that's not playing.
So I mean, you're going to lose some deals sometimes, and that's just one that's got away from City because he's a great player and he's going to be have an amazing career. And it just happens that at the time he couldn't get the game time.
So who do you see getting that kind of 5th and 6th spot between obviously?
I think Villa.
Chelsea are coming. Villa's going to get 4th spot. I think they're no going anywhere. I think it's definitely 5th and 6th is going to be between Spurs, Newcastle, Man United, Chelsea.
So who do you think, or who do I want?
Who do you think?
Who do I think it's probably going to end up being? I don't know. See, because Spurs have got to play Man City. I've got to kind of think about that. I think that I'd like Newcastle just because of how they've like sort of similar what I said about Norwich. They've kind of just weaseled their way up the thing at the right time.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice for them to get like a European spot because of that.
I think they deserve it as well. I think they do.
They're good to watch, and that's the difference. Like sometimes you're like when they were like they've built it the same way City did when they kind of took over. They've built it bit by bit, whereas some teams just go in and just spend, and it's not the way to do it because you can't keep
What
control.
Chelsea did when Abramovich came in, they just spent a lot of money.
The difference was then though nobody else was doing it, so they were able to kind of have the monopoly on it's like, we can pay that guy twice as much as they can pay him, whereas now there's far more people in the market. So
it's interesting. I'd like to see it if Villa don't get 4th, Villa and Newcastle to get the 5th and 6th place, but I can see either it'd be Tottenham playing Man City. I think it'll be hard for them to get in. I think it will,
because one of the games left to them is Man City. I think they'll struggle. Man United, I'm not actually sure what Man United's remaining games are.
I think it's Arsenal and can't remember who they've got in the last day. I think it might
that's the kind of game that Man United would win though, even though they've been
might be
absolutely
Everton.
horrendous.
I'm not sure, but
it's Everton the last day because I think Man City's West Ham.
Yeah, and I think Chelsea's got to go to the City ground and the Saturday night kickoff at 5:30. So that could be, they're fighting for their lives. That could be drop points, maybe. Hopefully,
you look at Chelsea as well. Like the amount of times that you just don't know what you're going to get.
Like
that, I think was it not on a 2-week course? They won 6-0, get beat 5-0, and you're just like, what's going on?
Not quite sure what you're kind of expecting.
So like
you
could
beat
end
Everton 6-0.
Aye, and then they get beat 5-0 after.
Yeah.
It's
Arsenal.
Man United, I think, are far too unpredictable. I think Chelsea are far too unpredictable. So you can say, they'll probably make it to 5th or 6th, and then they'll go out and lose these next 2 games. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to predict, especially with Chelsea. I just don't know what it is with Chelsea. Like the signings they've made for the amount of money they've made, there needs to be investigations in there. I would start investigating why is this happening. Like for
he's clearly got lawyers like the way City
absolutely,
have.
Absolutely.
Like they'll find a loophole and then they'll tie that loophole into another loophole, and
it's
that's
signing
what
them
happens.
8-year contracts.
I know it's that, but you look at it. If you're doing it like 5 or 6 times, then surely you're just doing the same thing. But with 6-year contracts, it's different if you're only getting 2 of them. And you go right, okay, that's spread over 8 years. It's probably about the same as having like 4 players spread over 5 years. But they're just buying anybody and doing that.
Aye, I don't know.
And I think obviously I can see you're itching to get that Everton top off and get the bright yellow of Dortmund. And we'll obviously get on to the Champions League semi-final. Dortmund obviously going into you must have been roasting that
fucking violent. Especially when I was running up that road, I had 4 t-shirts on the jumper. I didn't really fancy Dortmund getting into the game last night. I felt like they probably needed a second goal in the first leg just to kind of secure it a wee bit more. You knew Paris Saint-Germain were going to have a go at them, something like 30 shots in goal last night.
I think they hit the
22 of them.
I think they
post.
hit the
Aye.
I think they hit the post 4 times
It's
last
heartache
night.
material, man. It was-
Twice they hit the bar.
That's when I said to you earlier, I felt sorry for him, because at that point you're just like, see when you know that that's happened, like last week hitting both posts and that, you just know it's
Aye,
not going to be
it's
your
no
night.
for you.
It's
It's
not
no
for
for
you.
you.
If
know.
that is happening,
But it's Paris, innit?
Exactly. And that's the thing. How so? Obviously, in terms of before the game even kicked off, but that last 20 minutes, how was your nerves? Obviously,
I was
Thinking.
rattled, absolutely rattled. I was just convinced they were going to score and equalise, and then score again. I'm like, we're going to go 2-1 down here. We're going to. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't happen. Like, it's watching Dortmund this season. It's been like, up and down. Right, we lost 2-0 earlier in the season. I think to what was it? It's been right out of my head. But we've been losing 2-0 and then winning 3-1 and then
it's just that inconsistency.
we were inconsistent as anything. So see when the game before the game last week, I went in it and I'm like, I can see he's getting a draw tonight. I was saying to my mate, I'm like, I can see he's getting a draw against Paris tonight. I says that I would take that. I says at least we've put up that fight. And when the first goal went in, I'm like, yes, we could actually do it. It was thought belief when the final whistle went. I'm like, all we need to do is go there and park the bus.
Yeah.
Just park the bus. I would happily.
do you watch a lot of like any European leagues, like more than
We see bits
others?
and pieces, to be honest.
So
kind
like,
of thing,
obviously,
just like,
I watch the German league, I
Aye.
watch the Spanish league, I actually watch the French league probably most, even though I don't rate it as highly as the other two.
Oh, I can't
I
stick
think the
with French.
games are better, like kind of not PSG against Strasbourg and that, but the games that are like kind of the mid-level teams and that are always not bad. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like everyone goes, "Oh, it's not a great league." I was like, all the best young players and that are coming first league. Like,
Aye.
maybe at that time,
Yeah.
they're not the best. But I've watched PSG all season, and I could have told you that Dortmund could have
Aye.
had a chance of doing them. They're so bland sometimes. Like when they play, they're just like, you're like, you've got like maybe 3 or 4 of the best attacking players right here, and you're playing a team of like basically journeymen and nobodies, and they were like scraping a 1-0 victory, and you're like,
Aye.
and that's what I said. I was like, Dortmund have got every chance here. They're not as good as they are on paper.
But see what turned it off for me last week. See that shot in the just before the game, and apparently the yellow wall were in there for an hour and a half before kick-off.
It's unbelievable. Man.
That is dedication. That's
I loved the footage of Marco Reus in the crowd last night.
Beautiful.
That mini yellow wall that they created in the Parc des Princes. But when you look at, I'm of an age where I've watched, especially Euro '96. Strong German teams, strong German defences, and you look at last night, Schlotterbeck, Ryerson, Sabitzer. They all, obviously Mats Hummels with the goal, but they
Ryerson German?
all put their. I'm not sure.
I think he's Danish.
Aye,
something like that.
I was going to say Swiss, but aye,
German,
it does-
Danish, same
It
thing.
does, pretty much the same thing.
Aye.
Maybe he's got
he's an honorary German.
he's got,
after last night.
he's got a German granny.
But when you look at that kind of
Schlotterbeck.
defence, they absolutely put every
Body
bit of
on the
body
line.
on the
Aye.
line.
It was awesome.
They were throwing everything at it just to block.
Schlotterbeck for me,
every-
when they came for Freiburg, like I remember, I watch every Dortmund game, right, and I remember seeing the game against Freiburg, and he put out an absolute performance against us last season. And I remember saying, if we sign him, he'll be one of our best players next season. And we signed him, and do you know what? He's absolutely sound defensively. He's the next Bellingham, Haller. Like he's the next one to go. Like, do you know what I mean? The Sancho's, your Haalands, your Bellingham. He's the next one to make that transition and go to Madrid or even Bayern Munich or
I
whatever.
actually think it's going to be the winger,
Um,
fastest guy in Bundesliga ever.
Adeyemi.
Adeyemi.
Is he the fastest?
The fastest player
I didn't know
ever,
I didn't know that either.
ever recorded in the Bundesliga ever since records began.
That's crazy.
Wow.
They brought it up, and I was like, surely not, really? And they gave the stats. I can't remember what it was, but it's like something like an extra 0.5 over the fastest player
Wow.
ever recorded.
Aye. Adeyemi's a great wee player. He's absolutely incredible. I love watching him. He's great to watch.
See when he just kind of gets up and he gives you that cheeky laugh. I thought that was quite good last night. But I think he'll go in this.
Aye.
In the summer.
Yeah.
If they do, if See if they win the Champions League, they might not, because I think this is what's happening with
them to win it.
Leverkusen.
Uh-huh.
Like
I'd love
Leverkusen,
them.
I think Leverkusen will keep all the players now because there's
Aye.
like a
Since they've kept Alonso.
in a way.
So in terms of tonight, then obviously, you know, the last time the final was at Wembley 2013, it was Dortmund Bayern Munich final. Dortmund lost. I was trying to remember. Was it an extra time goal?
Extra time, aye.
Uh-huh. Maybe an Aaron
scored-
Robin, but I can't remember who it was.
No, I think it was.
I remember because I was working in Glasgow and I'd left just as it was kicking off.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I was like, should I just stay here and watch this because I don't want to miss any of it? And then I watched it and then I was like, I was just like, I need to go down the road, and then I missed the goal because of it. I was just like, oh man.
There's the possibility, obviously, of a recreation in the final. If that's the case, if you know Bayern get over the line against Real Madrid tonight, do you think do you expect a different outcome with the way Bayern Munich's been inconsistent as well?
Bayern Munich's been very inconsistent, but you know Bayern Munich turns up in the Champions League every year. You know they're there or thereabouts, but they're playing Real Madrid, who are also
At home.
aye,
Yeah.
the Champions League, like the Champions League team, right? So it's got to be a hard game for Dortmund in any situation. I would like to see a Der Klassiker final again because of the way the last one went. But I don't know. It's just got to be a hard game. But the fact that Royce is leaving, Royce was my hero growing up.
That's a pure sentimental heartstring moment.
Yeah.
Its final game's going to be the Champions League final. For him to lift that cup, for him to finally win a massive trophy with
Is he
Dortmund.
a captain, aye? Or is
Aye.
is he like a co-captain because he doesn't play every week and stuff?
I think it's
Probably
switched
vice
about.
captain or something. Maybe.
Is it Hummels as a captain?
Hummels or Sabitzer, I think it's it.
Hummels is like, you thought he was done when he left Bayern. You ever, he's gone back to Dortmund for like a jolly, and he's been
He's been
outstanding.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
And
scores the
you
winner
look at-
last
they
night.
seem to do that. Like they bring back the players like Sula. He was all right
Aye.
as well. And you're just like, they've done that for years. Brought players back, and they've been brilliant. And you're just like, obviously they weren't done if they can still play at that level.
exactly.
And stuff.
But that's the Dortmund way almost. Like, it's weird. Like you couldn't imagine it in any other league. You couldn't like how the second best team in the league sells players to the first team and then brings them back and they're still doing a job at both teams. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. But like the day I started supporting Dortmund, it was Royce, Götze, Lewandowski, that trio. That's what made me fall in love with Dortmund, right? And I've supported them ever since. So see, ever they gone away and Royce Stein there, that was my hero. That's who I always
he
loved.
never left. There
I'm
was
gutted.
opportunities and he
Aye.
still didn't.
But I'm gutted that so I just want to see him lift that because he's never lifted a Bundesliga.
I wanted them to win it because I think the manager deserves a lot of credit.
Oh,
for that.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
Is he coming for a fan as well? He came for being a fan.
He's obviously came right through the whole lived it, dreamed it, and now he's living the dream.
Exactly.
And he's just done that. And then you look at some of the team he had last year, and then he's added to it. Like he's added two players that couldn't really get a game for Man United, and look now in the Champions League final, and you're like Man United are struggling and getting beat 4-0. You're like, sometimes it's just funny how things happen. Like that, you would never have expected that in a million years that Sancho would go back there and
be amazing.
be a guy that can like do what he was doing there before. It's almost as if it's in his head because of the transfer fee.
Aye,
Again.
but I seen a hang and it was Sancho refused to apologise. Now he's playing Champions League football instead of getting beat 4-0 off Palace, and you're like, and that comes back to the Ten Hag thing where he couldn't deal with egos. And if he managed to secure Jadon Sancho and get along with him and stuff like that, maybe Jadon Sancho's playing like that for Man United, and a Man United shirt, and they're beating Crystal Palace, and that's how Ten Hag's struggling because he can't get the best out of his players. But I'm glad he didn't.
He's not. I just don't think he's a strong manager. I think that he's too light and he criticises in the wrong way. That's the difference.
He should never criticise in the media.
Aye,
That's
definitely
a
not.
thing. The way he criticises in the media constantly, he done it with Ronaldo, he done it with Rashford, he's doing it with Sancho.
He waits and he does it like he'll do it like kind of not sly, but like in the media, and he'll make a comment, "Oh, you need to be stronger or do this." Whereas the difference is with like Klopp and Pep, they're on and they're talking them on after. Right, you're coming off. Right, this is what's wrong. This is what you've done.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. And you see him. They take it in and they know. Doesn't matter. He's criticising me. He's going to make me a better player. And that's the difference between them two. They have got that relationship, whereas I think Eric Ten Hag will never have that relationship.
If you see Ten
He's
Hag
a good
saying something,
tactician in that, but
if you see Ten Hag saying something with Bruno Fernandes is fine, he's earns up, he's You're like, how? That's not a way a club should run.
Although, I mean, Salah and Klopp had a wee.
Well, that's
Aye, they
it.
had a wee
Trouble in
tiff, aye.
paradise. So as I say, if we finish on the game that everybody wants to see at the weekend, high noon at Celtic Park, Celtic Rangers. I genuinely didn't think you had enough talking about that. No doubt,
Kinda
Billy, it'll
blue.
be a... That's fine. And no doubt,
On at one point.
it'll be a ferocious atmosphere. No Rangers fans for the final time.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, that has to be said. Because I've hated the no away fans. I think
It's
it's
pretty.
ridiculous.
It's pretty poor.
It ruins it. I think.
Petty, you know.
It's petty because, and do you know what? They can sit and say, "Oh, Rangers started it, whatever." Like, it doesn't matter. Somebody should have just been like that, bigger man.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at it, there's so much pressure, you know, not so much on Clement, but on Rangers to win this game and put some pressure on Celtic before the run in kind of thing to ensure that there's a helicopter Saturday. Do you think the pressure, who do you think the pressure's on, Celtic or Rangers?
I think
Rangers.
both of them. Both of them.
Both of them?
It's more Rangers, but I think that everybody seems to forget that we would never have been in this situation.
Is it a case of Rangers have nothing to lose?
Rangers have nothing to lose, but then they've done it themselves. Like Rangers have lost their advantage, and do you know what? Fair enough. Like the games they lost, they weren't good enough. And but to be that far behind and claw that back, that's the manager that's done that. Like I mean, it's the same players. He's added a couple, but I think that as much as it's not going, if Celtic win the league, it's not the end of the world because I think he'll do well in the summer to craft more of his team. It just depends whether. See, Celtic either have a great transfer window or a horrendous transfer window. There's no middle ground. And you look at like bringing in all the boys for the Asian leagues and that was like unbelievable transfer window. And then the next one they had was shocking. They wasted so much money on players that just aren't.
I'm not too
of the
hopeful
level.
for this transfer season. I really don't rate Brendan
I
Rodgers at all.
I think it depends on
I think Brendan Rodgers has
if
walked
we win
into
the
a
league
winning
and you've got that
situation
money.
kind of thing.
And he
Like,
struggled.
He's made it. He's struggled with a team that
Can win it.
is better than what was put in front of him.
I said this when we brought Brendan back. I says he's got to come in. He's got to think he can walk the league again, like he did in his first couple of seasons. He's got to think that he's going to do this and do that because Ange was winning. Like he's got
Well,
to
of course
think
he
he's got
says
to
that,
be
didn't he?
global. And he's come in and he's struggled and he's struggled and he's got his hump to Europe and now he's struggling to win the league. And it's we should have never have brought him back.
And he
no
said
plan
he
B.
said that in
No.
his very first day outside the steps of Celtic Park. You know, thank you to those of you who have backed me, and for those of you who haven't backed me, I'll see you here in May. That is a ballsy statement to make
Aye.
pre-season. You've really got to
Especially-
back that
He
up.
was
and
probably
listen, he,
sweating a bit a couple of months
listen, he
ago.
might get over the line, and he might do the Brendan
But
Rodgers
he never
thing and
done
act
it
smug
with
about
flair.
it. Yeah, I think he might act.
Ange done it with flair.
Yeah, I think he might do the Brendan Rodgers thing if we get over the line and act smug as if we were always
Aye.
going to win it.
We knew
But
it was
I
going
think
to win
it's
it, but
been
you can't make
a
that
horrible
statement
season.
and then scrape it.
Yeah.
You need to win it comfortably, and he's
Exactly.
not done that.
Probably did look like he was going to do that though. Obviously,
Aye.
Look, because when you first brought in comment. When you first brought him in, I'm like, right, we'll see what he's got. And then you started to run a form, he's took hours in the league, and I'm like, this is worrying here because of how bad Brendan is. Now, he's managed to claw it back. I don't know how he's done it.
I think
really
it's not as much as he's clawed back. He's just kept going.
Yeah.
And Rangers have
Slapped up,
hit
obviously.
a bad patch. Like when Celtic were hitting a bad patch, Rangers caught
Aye.
it, and then Rangers just hit the bad patch when they're not supposed to because that was the time that was a pinnacle. See if they went into this game itself. I didn't want them to get into this game with Celtic like wanting to defend it because that's just
Yeah.
See, as soon as you go into these games, try to defend like a points lead or something like that, Celtic will just take you apart. They've done it. I've seen countless managers over the last couple of seasons, Rangers going in and going, right, we'll play counter. No, do you know what? You should be good enough to go for it, but like obviously with the right amount of caution. But they were just too defensive, and Celtic play the ball up and forward, and then you're trying to play defensive. You're just playing right into the tactics.
And obviously the Connor Goldson issue, do you know what I mean? Like, do you think he's burned his bridges at Ibrox? Do you think, can you see him bounce back and
I
come
think,
back?
do you know what? He's a good player. The problem is he's just overdone it. Like he should have been rested. He should have been took out of the team when he was struggling earlier in the season, and he was just the ever mainstay in the team, and that's where it got. But you look at it now. Balogun was on the bench. I was like, why is he not playing Balogun? he got a red card and that and stuff like that, a couple of games. But see, he's a fast.
He's a player that would leave his heart and soul in the pitch for Rangers.
He was desperate to come back. I felt really bad when he didn't. Like when they let him go initially, and then he went down, and then obviously when he came back, I was like, oh, because I know he's got a mistake in him, but he's all in, and he's
got
fast
skills. Very much so. But sometimes he's a bomb scare, but you know he's got to leave everything on the park.
Yeah, and obviously Ryan, with Rangers record the way it is, obviously he's not lost many. I think he's only lost one. Is that working in terms of psychological edge? Do you think that works in his favour? I think
it's very irrelevant because when his first spell here, Rangers won the team there now. It's very irrelevant. I think he struggled earlier in the season. I think the 3H game, listen, that could have been either way. Celtic and Rangers both played well, but I think it's all to play for in this next game. I really don't know what the outcome's got to be. I'd love to say Celtic will win comfortably, but I can see it go either way. I really have no faith in Brendan whatsoever.
The problem with that is like Rangers have got a blueprint because a couple of teams have came to Celtic Park and took wins or points, and so I mean I'm not saying they've got to play that way, but they know it's whereas
it's doable.
When Brendan was here before, Celtic were immaculate, so it's doable. So but obviously you've got to play your own game. You can't like play away on our team because that was obviously just a smash and grab by a couple of them. But then Hearts done it.
Aye.
I don't know. I think it's a hard one. I think Clement's got the right idea. I think he's just ran out of time this season.
Aye.
So how do you see the game going in terms of predictions then? Goals galore. At what end?
Both. I don't know. I think it'll be high. It'll probably be very similar to the last time. I don't know if it'll maybe be 3 each, but I would imagine it's either going to be like 3-2 or at very least 2-1.
I'm every Old Firm I put on 3-1 Celtic. That's my bet. 3-1 Celtic without fail. But this game on Saturday, I really could see it go either way. I have absolutely no faith in Brendan. The only people I've got faith in on that park is Carter Vickers, Joe Hart, Matt Riley and Kyogo.
So half a team.
I've got no faith in the whole team. Only Kyogo.
But when I look at Liam Scales, I love Liam Scales, but he's a bomb scare. He makes too many mistakes.
Is that not just very similar to what people used to say about who's the boy at right back?
Ralston.
Ralston.
Aye,
he's the same.
Ralston was the same.
But Ralston's one of the players that I would play him up at places like Dingwall and Tynecastle and Livingston. Because he's one of the players that would run through brick walls for you.
Aye.
Kind of thing. He's that kind of player. He knows what it takes to play for Celtic.
And players that run through brick walls for him. That's the problem. You were talking about Greg Docherty earlier on. Yeah. I really like Greg Docherty, and I just think he was in the wrong time at Rangers because he would have ran through a brick wall for you. I don't know whether he maybe a couple of years down the line if he would have became a better player, but obviously he's just an average decent player at Hull. But Rangers don't really hang on. That's the problem. That's why Rangers have struggled because they've not got a Barry Ferguson. They've not got an Ian Ferguson, Ian Durant, somebody that knows what they're like. Rangers. Like they probably would have had one if they didn't obviously let Billy Gilmore slip through there.
Aye,
that's it. But we'll leave it there anyway, guys. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me
on.
on.
Can I just do a shout out?
Yeah.
Shout out to Bologna's main man.
Oh, brilliant. Aye. I thought that was
Ferguson.
Meant to say
he should be in the
actually.
Scotland squad.
Top, he is. He's injured. But he got voted the best midfielder in Italy.
I didn't know he was injured.
When have you ever heard anything like that in your life?
I don't even know if
that's
anybody's.
Unbelievable.
I don't think anybody's ever.
Like, see if that hasn't just added like 15 to 20 million onto his already inflated transfer, it would have been. So safe to say, Rangers will not be signing him anytime soon.
Yeah, he'll be in the World Cup squad next time round.
Probably if he leaves Bologna, wouldn't be surprised if he turns up at Inter Milan,
AC Milan,
Milan next season.
Kai already thinks he's went to AC Milan. Do you hear about this?
No.
Kai said in his podcast, Lewis Ferguson that plays for AC Milan.
Giving out stuff already. Maybe he's got
inside knowledge.
Oh no, it's released. It's out there for the world.
But yeah, so we'll be next. We'll be back next time with more football chat, more guests. And if you haven't done so already, if you get onto YouTube, check out the Let's Have It team and click subscribe. Get some great content on there. And make sure you don't miss a minute. But until next time, guys, we'll catch you later. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.